Okay, recording has started.
Hello and welcome to the first joint webinar from the series Extended Reality Community Meetup. During this meetup, webinar speakers will have the opportunity to present various aspects from each project, introducing good practices, resources, and tools, and share the challenges they are facing. Extended Reality Learning is a joint communication initiative of the three sister projects XR2Learn, XR4ED, and MASTER. It's funded by the European Union under the topic Extended Reality Learning, Engage and Interact. Extended Reality Learning aims to provide a more comprehensive and richer overview of the different approaches in extended reality in training and education while communicating the outcomes of each of the projects involved. I will now hand over the mic to our project officer, Mr. Luis Eduardo Martinez LaFuente, who will give a further description about the project and the aims. Over to you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Luis Martinez. I am the project officer of XR2Learn, and I would like to thank you for the invitation to this webinar. Unfortunately, my colleagues Reza Georgieva and Diana Miaskova Pascual from the other two projects from the same topic could not make it, but I will say a few words on their behalf. We are here today to know more about the three projects selected as the best proposals for the topic Extended Reality Learning, Engage and Interact. And in this topic, we wanted to develop initiative extended reality applications for learning, training, and education, and to test and support take-up of proven successful XR tools, making Europe a leader in cutting-edge technologies for education. We wanted to develop these applications, for example, in education, such as for virtual field trips, content creation, and exploration, and also to provide access to teachers, students, parents, and school administration to a reference platform where they can find educational solutions appropriate for their educational needs. And of course, to be the focal point where the XR and the education communities can share or market their existing digital educational solutions, including those developed in the context of EU-funded projects. Personally, I love VR. I have more than 4 VR helmets here in my home office, and I mean, if you see this room, it has all the furniture against the walls, so the center can be used as VR space. The corners have sensors. So as someone who loves to play video games, and in my spare time, I make small games and assets on Unreal Engine 5, extended reality and similar applications have opened a whole new world of possibilities, especially in education. Some of the demos I've experienced on VR include things like seeing the David of Michelangelo in real life size with very detailed photographic textures. Seeing like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel also in Italy that I've seen in reality, but you can see it really small. But here in VR, you can actually zoom in and see the details. But XR and these technologies are not only for virtual museums. There are virtual classrooms where mathematical concepts, for example, are visualized, facilitating learning, increasing the memory and knowledge retention, boosting excitement and engagement in the classroom, improving learning outcomes, and especially focusing student attention on the lesson. I mean, I wish I had this technology when I was growing up, and I am very jealous that my kids are going to learn with this. So yeah, going back to the topic, the 3 selected projects for this topic on extended reality learning are XR2Learn, XR4ED, and MASTER. These projects will be using a financial mechanism called FSTP, or Financial Support for Third Parties, in which part of the EU grant received will be distributed via open calls by the projects. This financial mechanism was implemented in Horizon 2020, and it was very useful because it allowed the European Union, the European Commission, to reach the smaller communities and beneficiaries, like postdoctorate students, for example, who do not have the time and the resources to apply for European grants. So with these 3 projects, we start the new Horizon Europe program, and we want to hear more about how this mechanism works, if there's any feedback. Also want to know more about the calls. We really hope for lots of applicants and very good results for all the projects. And thank you very much, and hope we have a good meeting.
Thank you, Luis, for that kind presentation. We are going to start with this first of our 3 project introductions, which will be XR2Learn. The topic of this first presentation will be about the open call and the technical solutions. It will be focusing on the use of XR technologies on training and the workforce in the manufacturing domain. We will find out about the novel XR tools provided by the project. We will also learn about the funding that is now available for supporting the new XR applications. Benjamin from the LS Group and Ioannis from Sapienza University will give us more details. Dr. Ioannis is an associate professor at the Department of Computer Control and Management Engineering at the Sapienza University of Rome in Italy. He teaches courses related to the Internet of Things, smart objects, and data mining, with strong emphasis on algorithm engineering and entrepreneurial developments on innovative systems. So over to you. Please let us hear about the first presentation.
Reza, thank you very much. This will be a joint presentation, as you said, with Benjamin and Antoine from LS Group. They are leading the technological development of the project. And today we are going to do this presentation together. So I will start by introducing the project and some of the concepts. Then I will pass the floor to Benjamin and Antoine to present the technologies. And then we will close the talk by giving a brief presentation of the call for funding that is officially open for anyone interested to submit a proposal. So I'm really happy to be part of this webinar. Thank you. And let's start, Benjamin. So essentially, the key observation here is that today, as Luis also said, XR is a reality. So we have new technologies that are available on the market continuously. We see improvements, and also it's the mobile phones that more or less they are available everywhere. We have constant internet connectivity. We have powerful capabilities at our hands, and of course, this is not just for research labs. This is something that anyone can use in their daily lives. So here we don't need to have a large investment, relatively large investment, neither to use these technologies, but not nor to develop new applications. So this is the key observation. However, today the vast majority of the companies and the technologies developed are done in the US, and this gives a leading edge at this point to the market. And of course, for us, it is extremely important to increase EU competitiveness across all these technologies and provide a support, a focus, let's say, to small, medium-sized enterprises, startups, and in general, new technological companies. So this is, let's say, the application market today. And then the second point of view is that we have a strong emphasis of XR applications. Benjamin, if you wish to move to the next slide, please. A strong focus on games, and a strong focus on applications that essentially are built for the entertainment. However, it is evident that other domains, and in particular education and training, should receive more focus. Of course, there are applications today for these domains as well, but we strongly believe that they have to receive a bigger emphasis. Now, in the XR to Learn project, we look into the industrial and the manufacturing environment, Industry 4.0, 5.0, and our goal is to boost XR design for education and training in such kind of domains. So what we want to do here is to connect XR designers. We wish to connect education experts and help them develop applications for mainly manufacturing, the manufacturing domain. So the project has two main paths. There is the marketing path, the business, let's say, strand, and then in parallel we have the technology strand, the technology, the development of new technologies. In this presentation today, we will focus on the technology strand, and the approach that we follow is essentially a combination of push and pull strategies. So from one side, we are developing the so-called beacon applications, pilot applications that demonstrate how such kind of technologies can be used, and we wish to push this to the relevant communities. And at the same time, in parallel, we want to provide tools so that we can pull from the development communities, from the manufacturing domain, all the necessary elements so that we can support these sectors. I will stop here, and I will allow Benjamin and Antoine to provide some concrete examples on the push side of our approach, and then I will come back to discuss a bit about the pull ideas. So Benjamin, I pass the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ioannis. So I'm Benjamin. I'm with Antoine today from LS Group in France, and we will indeed talk about the technology push. The goal being to provide tools to the community, to let the community create new tools, and to have this cycle of XR experiences creation for learning. So the two pillars in the technology push are these ones. We have on one side the enablers, on the other side the beacon applications. The two pillars are for us necessary in this time to bring the community into this effort of creating effective learning XR applications. The enablers on one side are like the building blocks. They will allow to have piece of technologies that are easy to use to create your own applications. Beacon apps, on the other hand, will give with examples and documentations like the good vision of what effective XR application should be. So I will start by presenting 3 of the beacon apps that we are developing right now in the XR2Learn project. So yes, see these beacon apps as a way to start like a sandbox a little bit. People will be able to have an example of how VR can be effective in one particular use case, in one particular domain, but they also will be able to play around with the sample project that will be provided, to play around and to understand the mechanism in it. So the first one of the beacon apps is the laser cutting machine. The main goal being to give people an insight about how we can train on an industrial machine people to learn how to use them, how to maintain them. So 2 ways to use this experience is either by training purely on the step-by-step part of maintaining and using the machine. Or if you are purely learning it from scratch, you can be aided by the application with some help, contextual help when the user needs it. So you can see in the video that you have some rich interaction within the objects. 3D assets optimization is something that you will be able to see within the sample. You can create scenarios that can like create a step-by-step procedure for your particular use case, and also some visual effects. And this beacon app will be delivered at the end of this year. If I go further on beacon apps 2, this one is similar, but it's showcased like a more complex visualization of a virtual biology lab. So using complex instruments that you have in this kind of labs, it's important to give students a way to learn the procedures and the way to use this material without breaking it, without taking risks of accidents. So being able to use 3D and XR beforehand helps us eliminate a lot of the risks and accidents. This application right now is used in university with the form that you see, and we are actively working on converting it into an XR app that will be available early next year. Next and last of the Beacon app that we present today is about training and safety in an industrial environment. So we know that in the past years, we already know how to detect within a video stream objects that are recognized by machine learning models. So here we can see that helmets are detected within the video. But the point of this Beacon app is that we don't train our models necessarily only on real footage, but also with synthetic data. And here, the goal is to use 3D to expand and multiply the possibilities of training your ML model for security. So indeed, with this Beacon apps, you will be able to use other data and to train your models to detect other things than helmets or gloves or other security elements. The ultimate goal being to detect within an environment dangerous situations. So this is a work in progress Beacon app that will be delivered later during the lifetime of the project. And now I will handle this to Antoine to present the enablers.
Thank you, Benjamin. So good morning, everyone. Benjamin has showed the first concept of this techno-push approach, which was a Beacon application, sandbox projects that you can play with and understand the best practices of building XR applications. The second very important concept of XR2Learn is the concept of enablers. You can consider it as some building blocks that you can use to accelerate the development of your XR application, and you can adapt to your need. It comes from the simple assessment that today most of the XR application reuse the same some same ingredients, and there is no standard in these ingredients, and we want to provide a starter pack to the community to not to reinvent the wheel every time we create an XR application. So we are right now working on the first two enablers of XR2Learn. The first one being what we call the authoring tool. So the fact is that when you start from scratch creating an XR application, sometimes you most of the time you use a well-known 3D engine. Unity is the most popular 3D engine, and when you start with Unity, well, you have to download some assets to connect the headset, to configure the interaction with the objects, etc. All of that is done from scratch, and we want to provide the community with the first building blocks to do so. So in this set of tools we provide, there will be some pipeline to integrate some 3D data, native 3D data from the industry, for example, and also point clouds, because point cloud is a widely spread source of data. Now anyone can scan with its cell phone a room or an object, and with this module you can import it into Unity. The fact that you can plug any VR headset on the market is also important. There is no open XR standard that is helping us, of course. And what is really important and probably less popular is the fact that when you create an XR application, what you see is the visual quality of the application, but what is really making the user experience a great one is the invisible behavior of objects, especially the physics behavior. When you grab objects, when they collide, when they fall, when they are constrained by other mechanisms. This is a building block that is called a physics engine, and can be sometimes quite difficult to integrate and configure. So we are providing it also as long as some guidelines and documentation to the community, and some more assets to build a scenario quite easily. So this in a short video shows you how in a few clicks you can create a scene from scratch. This is what we call a low-code approach or no-code approach, because if you use the building blocks, you're able to already make a quite convincing training application, for example, in the industry. Of course, all the elements are adaptable. If you're a Unity developer and you want to build on top of the ingredients we're providing, it's perfectly possible. It's just, as I said, a starter pack to help you get started with your XR application. You will see a bit later on here the visual scripting. Again, if you don't know C#, you can program some basic behavior of object with visual scripting. It's getting quite popular, and this is the first enabler we will provide in a few months. The second one is related to a very important concept in learning, not only XR learning, but learning in general, that was invented in the 1970s, which is called the theory of flow. Probably some of you already know what this concept is about. In a few words, a person, it has been noticed and scientifically proved that a person is engaged in a learning experience if the difficulty of the learning experience is in between the anxiety and the boredom. So if the task is challenging enough for you to get focused, but not too challenging for you to get stressed. And the idea of this enabler that is called emotion recognition and uses a tool called the Magic X Room is to help you calibrate the difficulty of your XR application to be exactly in this flow channel for the learning to be effective and adapt to the level of the user, whether it is a beginner or an advanced user. So what we will provide to the community is first a way to calibrate this emotion recognition. One of the partners of XR to Learn Consortium is working on this concept of magic room that you see here. So a person in VR is performing a task, very simple task like stacking cubes or painting or building the tower of Hanoi. And the level of difficulty can increase, for example, in this case where the cubes will be a little bit slippery or bouncing, etc. And while you perform this experiment, we will monitor through different devices your level of stress. So it can be a very simple setup or a more advanced one with some heartbeat measurement or level of humidity of the skin. And with this biomeasurement, as I said, the most basic one is the position of the headset and the arms. If you add very cheap devices, you can have eye tracking and mouse tracking that provide indication or when you looked, what your mouth would give a clue as your impression. And you can also add some cheap heartbeat measurement sensors or with all these clues and some labeled experiment, we would be able to recognize the emotion that you were feeling during this experiment and pre-train some models for emotion recognition, and later on provide these pre-trained models to you to adapt and integrate into your XR application if you want to adjust the level of difficulty and be exactly in this flow channel that we presented earlier. So this concept is being developed by partners from the University of Maastricht and SUBSI. And to summarize this technology push chapter, so we've presented 3 beacon applications that we are currently working on, 2 enablers, but of course this will not be the end of it, because we expect that through the open calls, the community will provide more enablers and more beacon applications to enrich the stack and the current offer of XR2Learn, and this circle will grow as along with the technopool approach that Ioannis will present just after that.
So back to you, Ioannis.
Great, thank you, Antoine. Great, thank you, Benjamin. Yes, so this was the technology push component of the project, and now we will move to the technology pool, which mainly is based on the open calls. There are 2 open calls organized by the project, and then the first one is already published, actually from officially it started today, and the idea of these open calls is to help companies accelerate XR-based innovation in education and training, as we said earlier, within the manufacturing domain, but not necessarily on the manufacturing domain. It could be also in other areas, like, for example, the healthcare. So the idea here is to use a budget ranging from 150,000 to 300,000, and within a period of 1 year, develop applications that are innovative, and they can clearly demonstrate the benefits of using XR technologies, and of course they have a specific impact in terms of market proposition and new products entering the market. So we are looking for about 7 to 14 applications to fund. In total, we have 2.1 million euros to distribute to these projects, and its project is going to be made up either by a single SME or by an SME that is supported by 1 or 2 additional partners that can be either universities, academic institutions, training organizations, industries, or other technology providers. So we allow also the possibility of a small group of companies. Now, these essentially projects will develop an application on a specific scenario. We saw earlier the laser cutting machine. That for us is a specific scenario. So we are targeting a specific sector, and we are focusing on a specific training within this sector. And of course, in order to develop this, we need to involve both technology experts, but also people that are experts in training, tutoring, designing educational material, and of course, evaluating the use of this kind of material in real-world environments. So this is why a proposal can involve more than 1 partners, because it is difficult to maintain, let's say, expertise in all these domain within a single SME. Now, looking into the projects, as Antoine said earlier, the goal here is to expand the offering of XR2Learn. So we saw these specific enablers and these beacon applications, but we expect that the projects that will receive funding will also contribute with different ways. So it could be a new enabler developed by third parties that will be released to the community. And here, I just want to mention a bit what we said earlier about the marketing strand and the business strand. So XR2Learn will support this kind of activities by providing marketplace and also tools to make such kind of enablers available to the community. But we will have other opportunities to present this. And of course, this could also be connected to new 3D models suitable for education applications, or even modules that bring into all these elements into a structure that can be followed by the people working within the manufacturing domain or within another environment in order to receive some kind of certification depending on the outcome of the training. So there is a broad range of outcomes that a project could provide, not only in technological terms, but also in other perspectives. And of course, all these are available in the material that we have released. Now, in terms of the proposal preparation, we did our best to keep this as lightweight and simple as possible. So there is a template which can go up to 9 pages. The maximum is 9 pages. And here, of course, there are strict rules on the font size and the margins, so that at the end, it's the essence of the idea and the key aspects, the key innovative aspects, and the key elements in terms of the impact on the business, on the market, the business proposition, and so on, that are included, rather than extensive details that will not help so much the evaluation project phase. So we have a summary, a single page providing the summary of the application. Then we move on to the concept and the implementation of the idea. So here we want to emphasize the innovation. We want to emphasize the novelty, but at the same time stress also the feasibility of the proposed system. So clearly there is a trade-off between these aspects, and of course it is important to explain in technical terms how they will be realized, all these kind of ideas that the proposal brings into the table. So we want to see the applicability to the XR and educational scenarios. We want to see the applicability to Industry 5.0 technologies domain, and of course by stressing out the level of innovation and technological challenges addressed. Now this is the first part of 3 pages. The second part, equally important, is the impact of this of the proposal. So when we say impact, we mean economic and the societal impact of the proposed subsystem. We saw, for example, in the second beacon up the importance of scaling training to large numbers. And of course, this is extremely important for the societal impact. We cannot afford expensive solutions that unfortunately cannot scale. And clearly this needs to have a market potential and some approaches to how this will help, as we mentioned earlier, the European dimension of XR technologies and the European, how it will support the further development of the European market. So here, exploitation plans, business plans, commercialization ideas, go-to-market strategies fit into the proposal. And finally, this leaves the third part, which is the description of the applicants, the capacity of the team to perform the task, the available resources, let's say, the knowledge, previous participation in relevant projects, of course, the financial viability and stability, and clearly the commitment of the company and the team to the idea of proposed. And of course, very briefly, we want to see what kind of resources in terms of personnel, in terms of equipment, and even traveling will be required to realize the project. So essentially, this has to be presented at a high level, but clearly all these elements have to be included in the project. Now, given that the proposal is prepared and submitted, in the next 3 months, starting from today, we will organize also Q&A sessions and webinars to address all kinds of questions for the preparation, and then the call will end on the 29th of September. So the deadline is 1700 Brussels times. And from that point on, the evaluation will start. This will be a short evaluation phase of about 2 months, where we will look into, of course, the feasibility aspects of the proposals, if all the criteria, the eligibility criteria are met, but more importantly, look into the actual proposals, what they offer, and essentially evaluate them using experts from the technology domains mentioned and the market. By the first week of December, we will have the results. We will go through a quick contract preparation phase during December, so that the projects can start from the 1st of January 2024, and they will be able to execute throughout 2024. So this is the overall timeline of this first open call. All the projects now are expected to have very specific deliverables. These are listed in the guide for applicants. So there are 4 deliverables. The first deliverable has to be related to the design of the application and the XR tools. This deliverable is due for the 3rd month of the project. So based on this timeline, it will be the March 2024. Then the projects are expected to enter a development phase of 7 months. So starting from April until the end of October, where again, there are 3 there is actually, one main deliverable, which is the actual application, the minimum viable product, let's say, and the documentation. So we are not looking for a product ready to be marketed by the end of the deliverable. However, we are looking for an application that it is above TRL6. So it is a prototype, a system prototype that will be tested in operational environments. That's the definition of TRL7. And there is also a third deliverable, which is this test and validation, essentially the results of the evaluation of the prototype in these operational environments, and at the same time, the evaluation of the impact potential of the project, the business considerations, and the potential, let's say, a first exploitation plan. And also, it is important to have material presenting this, like video material and other, let's say, promotional material that will become part of the XR2Learn communication channels. So this is these are the four deliverables which all projects should have. And finally, there is a last 2 months phase, November and December, where we are concluding the projects, and we are going through this final, as we call it, the growth phase of using the application and promoting it to the relevant communities. Now, the payments of the funding is connected to these three phases. So the design phase receives a funding of 30% of the original budget, of course, upon acceptance of the first deliverable. Then the conclusion of the second phase, the development phase, at the end of October, will provide a second round of funding of 50%. So now we will have a total funding of up to 80%. And finally, after the conclusion of the last 2 months, the third phase, after the end of December 2024, we will have the release of the 100% of the funding. Now, there is no need to provide any time sheets. It's a really lightweight process. The important focus is, as we said, on the innovative aspects, on the business potential, and in general, the impact of the projects, and of course, the actual delivery of what has been proposed. So this is a quick presentation. I'm not sure if we have any other slide to present here, Benjamin. Yes, of course. So the key points here is that the deadline is on Friday, September 29th, 1700. So this is the very last time where you can submit your proposal. And the expected starting time will be the 1st of January. Detailed information, of course, are available on the project website. You can find out about the webinars that will be organized during July and September through our LinkedIn channel, also through Twitter, and of course, video material like those presented by Benjamin and Antoine today, or other video will become available through the YouTube channel of our project. So thank you very much for your attention, and of course we are open for any kind of questions that you might have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ioannis. Thank you, Benjamin and Antoine, for that very fine first presentation of the three. We have now time. We have about 15 minutes for questions. You may call in, or you may write your questions in the chat. I will start with a question that's already been asked in the chat. It is The question is, can we apply if we are based in the UK? It has been answered, but would be nice to have it here.
Okay, so there is the guide for applicants that Felicia is mentioning with all the details information. I don't know if Felicia wants to answer this question directly.
Hi, yes. So SMEs are eligible to participate if they are based in the EU member states or the Horizon associated countries. As I have inserted the link here, you can check all the countries that are available, and UK is one of them. So yes.
So the quick answer is yes. Thank you, Felicia. The longest answer is that in the guide for applicants, in fact, there is a long list of associated countries. They are not only those based on the EU member states, but yeah, I mean, if you look into the list, then you will have a definitive answer. Thank you, Felicia.
There's another question. Can we apply from Cyprus?
Yes, you can apply from Cyprus.
The question that came up is, are sole proprietorships eligible as SMEs in the call?
Yes, yes. The minimum is one SME.
Another question that came up is they would like to know a little bit more about IP rights of the funded projects. Okay, so IP is definitely maintained by the people participating in the project. So the outcomes of the project are entirely owned by the people executing the project. There is absolutely no doubt here. And of course, it is entirely up to the project to decide how they will exploit these outcomes. Now, if you wish to have them as open source or as closed source, this is entirely up to you. And the same holds for the way that you will market them. Now, if you wish to use the tools from the business strand we mentioned earlier of XR4ED, this is entirely your decision. You can do it, or you cannot do it, or you can do it in parallel with some other approaches. You are entirely free to decide what is best for your product. Okay. A hand has been raised, so please, you may ask the question.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, everybody, and good morning, Ioannis and everybody. And yeah, I have a question actually about the kind of project you are been expecting, since in the presentation you mentioned mainly and only, I would say, VR, immersive, fully immersive realities. So we are both in industry and academics approaching AR and VR. And we are saying that we are catching that AR is kind of a bit practicable, feasible for industries, and might effectively impact on the work experience in the industry. So the question is, are you mainly targeting virtual reality applications and projects, or also mixed reality and augmented reality?
Okay, I don't know if Antoine wants to answer this question.
Well, it's true that in the presentation we showed mostly a virtual reality application, but since the name is XR and we focused on mixed reality, so a mix of virtual and augmented reality. So yes, any XR application is applicable.
Okay, thank you. This was just because of the need of evaluating the proper feasibility into the industrial domain, no? Since many industries are a bit still far from having their own environment ready to be at the maturity level you are expecting. So that was the reason. But thank you.
Well, that's why
Thank
we
you.
target.
Yeah, sorry, Antoine.
TRL 7 is not TRL 9, so I think it's reachable as a target.
Alessandro, this is also, as we said earlier, a combination of innovation, novelty, and feasibility. So it really depends on the actual industry where you wish to apply your solution. So of course, VR is included, XR is included. The augmented reality AR is also included. But it really depends on the specific application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Great,
for that
thank you.
question. There's another one on the chat, and that question is, what's the definition of SME? Being associated with a company, or maybe there is some definition involved? So that's.
Yes, thank you, Dana. Again, I can ask Felicia to answer this, or I can also answer. Felicia, it's up to you.
Hi, yes, so there is a link that I will insert in the chat. So basically an SME, according to the criteria defined by the European Union, should have a minimum annual headcount, a balance sheet. I will insert the link that you can find all the details.
Thank you, Felicia. And then for the question, we have another 5 minutes before we go to the next project and the next speaker. So please, there is another question who just showed up. Let me get through this one. It says that we use Unreal and NVIDIA Omniverse, and it sees in the enabler 1 authoring tool that we should use Unity. Are other good tools also allowed?
Yes, exactly. We mentioned Unity, but any 3D engine is applicable, of course. Unreal, Omniverse. Enabler 1 works only on Unity, but if the person wants to build on top of Unreal, for example, and provide to the community enabler based on Unreal, that's perfectly encouraged.
Thank you, Antoine. So we're giving it a couple minutes. So yes, here we have another one. Do all participants need to be associated with a company? What do you all call? I assume that is.
Okay, so again, Danai, you must have an SME as the leading entity, and then the other 2 participants can be either a university, a research institute, an educational association. So they don't have to be an SME. No, they could also be mid-caps. Felicia, please correct me if I'm wrong. So they could be any kind of entities.
We have an answer from Felicia. Don't know.
Yes, this is the SME definition. Yes, this is the criteria, the official criteria for SME definition, and there is also a tool by the European Union that essentially it's a wizard that allows you to understand if you fill all these criteria or not. But they are pretty standard. No surprises there. And there is also a financial viability check. Of course, SMEs have to be financially viable to carry out this project, which is also something quite straightforward and standard used. So no surprises there. So just to give a final example, Dana, you can have an SME as the leading entity, and then one laboratory from a university that is going to carry out some specific development, or maybe an educational association that will examine the outcomes of and the goals of your training application. So they could also be part of the proposal. Does this answer your question? Okay, great.
So I would like to take the opportunity to once again thank everyone who presented here and listened to the first talk. We thank Benjamin, Antoine, and Ioannis for their time and answering the questions. And we would now go over to the second project in our three project meeting, that is XR4ED. So this is a project that brings together EdTech and XR communities to establish a European reference platform on learning and training with XR that will provide a central access to existing solutions and contribute to a leading position for Europe in cutting-edge technologies for education. The XRD will pursue its implementation through a set of smart objectives split into three main categories: scientific and innovation objectives, technological objectives, as well as business objectives. This presentation will be given by Professor Fotis LIAROKAPIS, who Dr. LIAROKAPIS is a research associate professor of extended experiences at CHATZIGIANNAKIS, the Center of Excellence based in Nicosia in Cyprus. The title of the presentation would be an overview of XR for education, and that's the XR4ED project. So over to you, Professor LIAROKAPIS. Please let us hear about your project.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity that was given to us to present the overview of introduce basically the project to everybody. So you are going to see two things from my presentation. The first part, I will give you a briefing of what the project is about. And the second part, I'm going to talk about the initial results that we have within the first 6 months. Okay, very brief overview. We are 11 partners from several countries in the European Union, and we have a budget of close to 7.7 million euros. Our objectives are basically we need to design, create, and maintain an online and on-demand educational platform. And we must focus, we want to focus on three things: privacy, ethics, and inclusiveness, which are at the moment very hot topics in the XR domain. We have three different types of objectives, which I'm going to present in the next slides. The first is to, and I'm going to focus a lot on this presentation today, take existing XR technologies from the members of the consortium. You see one technology here, which I'm going to explain soon, from TRL 4 or 5, and take them to a higher TRL, TRL 7. This is extremely important. So what I will show you from the initial results later on as well is the TRL 4 technologies and how we are progressing slowly towards the TRL 7 that we want to achieve. What you see on the first video is some work that I was doing in the past with students, and where augmented reality has been applied in the classroom. We followed an activity-like learning approach, and the idea was the students had to use augmented reality to teach their fellow students, difficult concepts in the class I was lecturing at that point, which was computer graphics. So you see two different examples. There was a publication, which you can see at the bottom. So this is the main concept, the technological objective that we have to enhance existing technologies and take them to a higher TRL. Next, we have two more technological objectives, which is to implement the novel on-demand educational platform, and also to formulate privacy ethics standards, which, as I said, are very important. And finally, we have three business objectives. First of all, to boost the use of the platform, trying to get potential user groups. We want to deliver a pan-European platform for education, training, and learning. And finally, we want to deliver a sustainable, ever-growing ecosystem of collaborating organizations in diverse domains. So the main concepts of or some of the important concepts of the proposal, the project, is first of all, we're going to create a platform, but this platform we want to have an authoring tool similar to what you saw on the previous presentation. Our authoring tool should allow the teacher, the educator, to create XR scenarios without knowing how to program, so without being a technical person. This is one thing which is extremely important. The second thing is a developer platform, which is going to integrate the third-party tools. We have also FSTP calls. And the last thing, which I believe we are very different from other similar projects, not only on this call, is we focus a lot on avatars. Avatar is a 3D representation of a human. So you are going to see from the videos later on. So the methodologies, we're going to have a marketplace as well, and we are going to have the developer platform. So the different components like the avatars, the authoring tool, and so on, and we're going to feed it with repositories, libraries, catalogs, and initiatives. And all of this is going to be fed into the platform. Also, we're going to have online learning courses and an ethics observatory. And finally, we're going to have the FSTP pilots. In order to allow users to have different solutions, we offer a marketplace, which is going to build, we already started thinking how this is going to look like. And it's going to be open to third parties for XR content, services, and tools. So you might want to buy an avatar for your learning application. You can go and buy an avatar, or you might want to get some ready-made scenes, let's say sounds, different things, whatever algorithms that us and the FSTP calls are going to produce. So the FSTP is a bit different from us. In our case, we're going to announce it on, it's going to start on the announcement on month 18. So we're a bit early for us to get all the details, but the overview is we're going to have two different types. Total money is 4.6 million euros. And the first call will be 2.3 million euros, and the other one, another 2.3. We have 6 thematic areas: virtual field trips, content creation and exploitation, awareness for climate change and biodiversity challenges, training of young professionals, distance and blending learning, and finally, accessibility and inclusion. So in the first call, it's going to be focused on tools. So it's going to address SMEs which come from technical, basically, backgrounds. And the purpose is to test the platform that we are going to have ready by month 18 and validate the platform and also demonstrate the usefulness. So we'll be asking for mainly open standards to be built these tools so we can actually feed the platform to serve the purposes of the 6 thematic areas that we want. So this is going to be basically, I will call it more technical, while the second call is going to be the call for mini pilots in order to test the tools that have been developed in the previous FSTP, but also the platform in real environments. We're going to have end users which are going to be used, and we're trying to focus in all different aspects of education. So schools, high schools, universities, colleges, and of course we need to have the educators, the teachers on one side, or the professors, and on the other side the students. Parents need to give consent form for the students in schools, and also vet institutions, and also companies. So it's going to be a big sort of testing throughout the whole educational community. Okay, I'm not going to say too much about the FSTP. As I said, this is going to be prepared. We haven't started officially the preparation of that. So this is taken from the proposal. We are going to, as I said, award 20 proposals and up to 230 euros per proposal. This is an overview of, so you can see where we started focusing at the moment. We're in the first 6 months. So we started obviously with the project management. You can see the cascade funding management starting later on. Also, the tendering preparation and the evaluation process starts again after month 6. So we haven't actually, as I said, started working on this bit. But we started working on other issues like the human-centered design, the privacy ethics, creating an ecosystem of trust, getting user requirements and also technology requirements. And this is what I'm going to be presenting to you now. Also, I'm going to show you how we have managed to move some of the products we have on TRL4 to TRL5 or 6 at the moment. So the first thing that has started obviously from day 1 is the communication dissemination activities. And we have created all of the things that are listed here. I'm going to show you very few things, but logos, websites, and so on. We just had today, we published officially our first newsletter, so it's online. So the website is obviously up and running for many months now. We have different logos with different color schemes. And we started gathering already analytics of our website. As you know, in the beginning, it's not so easy to attract many users, but the traffic is increasing more and more as days are getting by. We have our first flyer as well, which has been created a couple of weeks ago. And dissemination also has started. The important thing from my point of view is we had basically 3 dissemination events. 2 of them out of the 3 were events with which we were invited to Erasmus projects. So that was quite interesting because now we start to see about the common synergies with Erasmus projects that are finishing. And we start to get a lot of good contacts and links for collaboration. Another thing that we are doing a lot in terms of dissemination is we're organizing actually a conference, myself and one of the partners of the consortium from Spain, UPC. We are the chairs. So this is basically an XR4ED conference, which is still happening. We have extended some dates. So we're still getting some papers. We have some special issues. and it's happening in 4th to the 6th of October before the review meeting in Spain. And we're going to disseminate some of the results of the initial results that we have of the project. The other conference that XR4ED is partially involved, I'm involved actually as one of the two general chairs, is Eurographics. It's a very big conference in computer graphics, which is very relative to XR. It's happening in Limassol in Cyprus next April. We are in the initial process now of setting the first call for papers. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have the call for papers out, but the deadline for the full papers it's close to end of September. Of course, we have other types of areas, like there's an educational session, we have posters, doctoral consortiums, and so on. So our partners, I'm presenting, they send me some slides and I'm presenting on their behalf because I don't want to overcomplicate this presentation. We're doing work on privacy, ethics, and inclusiveness. So we don't have any robust results yet, but we started exploring societal consequences. And we need to have a minimum set of ethical and legal requirements. And also we're focusing on data protection and ethical issues in a more comprehensive manner. We did the first, for the user requirements, we started collecting these requirements from students which are above 18, because we didn't want to go to the long procedure of getting students which are under 18. We had to get consent forms from the parents, so we decided, because we did this online, to collect questionnaires from adult students, and also educators and experts. So we have completed the first stage. Now we're going to the second stage, so we're collecting, I will present the results in the next slides. The survey is still active, so you can actually, if you are a student or if you're an expert or an educator, you can complete the questionnaires even now. The initial results, I'm presenting that only from the experts. We had 48 expert participants and 10 of them were female. The median duration of expertise was 5 years. And all of them, I mean, the frequency of XR technology usage was sometimes. In terms of the awareness, participants rated themselves as aware of the XR technology, the experts. Also, participants expressed confidence that in the ability to develop or design new educational tools, which is quite important. Their general level of knowledge was slightly above average, which is again positive. And another interesting thing, we got a lot of experts from companies which are not specifically experts in XR and education. So only 16 participants had experience with XR and education. The rest had only experience in the XR domain. And here are some more results. So you can see, first of all, the responses to the question, in your opinion, how likely is that offering of XR content will influence the current or future students think about their university's ability to offer a progressive modern teaching environment, and it's a quite positive result. In terms of how XR is a powerful tool in teaching, again, we got quite positive, I would say, answers. And in terms of the barriers, we pretty know from our experience, knew what to expect, but we confirmed that huge barriers, first of all, is cost and funding, and technical concerns, also limited technology infrastructure, and other bits. Okay, another thing now that thing I mentioned before is we focus a lot on something that other XR projects are not working a lot, and we also do research in these areas. So one of these things is the importance of the user representation. When you have to present humans, virtual humans in an XR environment, what you see here is a VR environment. You have to check about the animation, and the animation has an impact. We have the uncanny valley effect as well. And then there are other things that we usually measure in VR experiments or VR situations. And is the feeling of being present in the virtual environment, if you feel that you're there. And also the embodiment, which means that if you feel that this virtual representation feels that it's part of your body. And there are a lot of challenges that we have to face. I could be talking for hours about that, but this is what we are actually gathering now. We have challenges in terms of the different software components that we have. We call it SDKs. We have challenges about the visual representation. We are experimenting with different types of representations. The animation fidelity, so we don't have jittering, we don't have basically problems with the animation, to say it in plain English. And then we have sparse input data, so we need to configure things from different devices that we use, trackers with different degrees of freedom, and any other pointers or hardware devices that we use. And don't forget that this is a rapidly changing technology. We bought in the project in January the latest version of Oculus, which is one of the state-of-the-art headsets for VR. And now we are waiting the next 6 months, the new version. So the technology is moving as fast as mobile phones are moving. And finally, authoring tools. We are going to have, as I mentioned, an authoring tool in our, obviously, in the project, because the end user doesn't know, it's not computer graphics or computer science or extended reality person. So we cannot expect the teachers, the educators to know how to create that. So the authoring tools are extremely also important. And I'm going to show you some of the work which is now currently under development from UPC, it's one of our partners, which is focusing on VR self-avatars. So you can see an avatar here on their lab, using the VR controllers. It's one of the standard state-of-the-art, let's say, VR headsets. And you can see that the user is seeing also his or her body in that case. It's a he. And he can see how the body feels, the virtual body seems part of his body. So we're talking about high embodiment. This was, by the way, previous work that the partners have done. And it's one of the cases of moving from TRL4 to a higher TRL. So we can see how the user can actually interact with the controllers and how the user can use inverse kinematics to locate himself or herself into the virtual space. Also, it's possible to hide the controllers. So then you have a completely different appearance. And here you can see the last thing that they presented is collaborative. Obviously, the platform we are building in the XR4ED is a collaborative project. And you can see on the small window here, the two users actually in reality and how this is represented in VR. So it's one of the videos they send me. I have more videos from them, but I will move on to what I have been doing as I have been developing in the past in terms of avatars, again in VR. And I'm going to show you the video which shows two things. On the left-hand side, you can see a commercial solution. On the right-hand side, you can see our solution. So in this case, this solution was developed from scratch. And at the moment, we are using that solution in the XR4ED project. This solution is accounting for two different things. Gaze-related eye. So when you see an avatar in VR or in AR or MR, the avatar is going to follow you. And you can also have eyelid motion and head motion. So you're going to see in a few seconds blue ball, which is basically yourself in the VR environment. And you will see how the avatar is following your movements. This is exactly what I was explaining. So although you might see some video games and some Hollywood movies which have a budget of many million euros, there are solutions commercially which are very expensive and they are doing maybe a better job, but I would say even now for the state of the art, this is a quite good result that can be used. Another thing that we have here is a set of tools to control different emotions. So when somebody is actually speaking to you in VR or in AR, it's important to get the emotions out of the person. So we need the person to smile or to seem happy and so on. So we control these emotions as well. And this is producing a quite nice set, we believe, that we can offer for the avatars that we're going to be using in the XR platform. Furthermore, we have the other things, which the mouth, for example, darkness, when somebody is opening the mouth, and you can see the differences without darkening and with darkening. So all of these things are increasing the realism of the avatars that we want to populate into the XR environment. So this was work that was done before. What was missing from what you saw is talking. Sorry. So the next thing that we had lip synchronization. So it's very important to have the speech when a virtual human is speaking to you, to be able to actually see the person moving the lips. And this has to be synchronized, of course, with the speech, otherwise will give a very bad effect. I know most of I'm not talking now about the domain of XR in education. So you can see some of the results. It's not an easy task. Again, there are tools that are doing this work. And of course, depending on the language or the area that somebody is living might be slightly different. So it's quite complicated. If you do it offline, it's easier, but if you want to do it in real time, it's quite difficult. Okay, I'm going to move on. So this was the second thing that we started. So the work that we started doing in this project is we were based on the TRL4, and I'm repeating that all the time. We created an augmented reality first application, and then a mixed reality application. I'm going to show you a video following. We use the same work that you saw before. So we are progressing the work from that state, and we connected that work with ChatGPT, which is giving the intelligence chatbot information for answering any questions we have. And we're having speech to text conversion and text to speech in order to ChatGPT to reply to us in sound. So I'm going to show you a video. We will start first of all from our laboratory here, and you're going to see a collaborative as well communication between two intelligent assistants and a human. And then I'm going to transfer yourself from the lab to the mixed reality, extended reality environment by using Panorama, and we're going to go a short trip to Nicosia in Cyprus. So this is our lab. Of course, this is work in progress. We have a male and a female at the moment agent. This application is operational both in mobile phones or tablets. So we have a light version, and also on headsets. So now we teleported in a way. We're still in the lab. In different places in Nicosia. And we can change the panoramas. So in essence, we can have this as a touristic guide. We're exploring at the moment the different technologies, and we can see how powerful they are. As I said, we have a light version, which is working on mobile phones and tablets, but also we have a more heavy version, which is used in Magic Leap. So it's the different solutions, a cheap solution, affordable for, let's say, all schools in mobile phones, and a more expensive solution. Okay, a few more slides. Next steps, we are going to finalize the user requirements. What we realized is that the questionnaires are giving some quantitative data, but we're going to conduct now interviews with experts, not only from XR, but also from schools and education domain in general. And this is going to give us also qualitative feedback, which I believe we're going to capture better the user requirements. So in the next few months, this is one of our tasks. And also, as I mentioned, we have to define the technical specifications, technical requirements, mainly in terms of software and hardware, but also for other things like what's the realism we're going to have on the avatars, the realism we're going to have on the graphics. Somebody mentioned before Unreal or Unity, several things that are important. Also the setups that we want to have. So a lot of things are going to be defined over the summer. The other thing that work is happening as we speak is we're examining our partners. IDL are collecting information. They are experts on this field. To have an appropriate interface design, we need to have the best practices, approaches, methods, components, and interactions, because we need to have a user-friendly and human-centered design for the project. it is not easy. From my experience in previous projects, you don't transfer the 2D skills into VR or 3D. Doesn't work like that. And XR covers three things: AR, VR, and MR. So there are three separate things. So it's quite challenging as a task. Of course, some things, this is provided by IDL. A lot of things exist, so we're not going to reinvent the wheel as such, but we need to decide which are the best practices for XR4ED, for XR in education. And we're going to have a visual components library, which will provide reusable components for partners and designers that will want to use our system. And as I mentioned, at the moment, we are collecting a lot of technologies and interface that we already have, like the videos I showed you, which were from TRL4, all the things we are developing now. And these are sent to create a list of what is actually important. The last thing, which is provided by our partner Eurogames, which is creating the platform and authoring tool. The development hasn't started officially yet, but we had already several technical meetings, and we're trying to see what's the best way to have the architecture. We're also talking about the authoring tool. I'm not going to present the marketplace, but I'm not going to show you any more diagrams. So this incorporates on a high level both the authoring tool that we're going to have, and it's going to use an SDK. We have agreed on that. We're going to be using Unity, and we're going to have a backend system where we're going to have user management, shop, and licenses. There will be a web interface and other things. So I'm not going to go into technical details unless if somebody wants more detailed information, but this is an initial architecture. As I said, the development hasn't started officially yet for that. We're just trying to agree on how the architecture will be done in the future. So this is concluding my presentation. I took a few more minutes. I apologize for that. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Fotis. That was a very, very exciting presentation with lots of different material there. I would like to go back and read the first question that came a while ago. That would be, do you include embodied conversational agents and conversational pedagogical agents under avatars?
We are thinking about that. We don't know if we should challenge the uncanny valley effect. I have a colleague who is not part of the proposal, but in science we're doing a lot of research in volumetric capturing, and this is a new trend in avatars, which is producing super realistic representations. So there is a discussion about going from teachers and educators and capturing them, but it's going to be impossible to be used on a large scale. I believe if a teacher, let's say, wants to create a scenario in XR, he or she won't have the capability to follow this process. So for the long mass, I believe we're going to have a solution of predefined avatars, unless if somebody wants to get a service, pay, and create personalized avatars. I don't know if this is answering the question.
If there is any further comments on this question, then please type it in, and we will get back to that question. So
I'm trying to
for
read
now,
the questions too, Elia.
Yes, so that question was for me. So yeah, because I've been working on like serious games and body conversational agents for about a decade or so. So yeah, I was wondering if this project would fund, because we're working on something very similar. So we have an embodied conversational agent for educational purposes to assist in educational settings that uses ChatGPT. And yeah, I was wondering if that would be kind of a project that would be considered for funding.
At the moment, I cannot answer for sure, say yes or a no, but it's definitely something which is very interesting. This is what I can say. We have specific thematic areas, but for ChatGPT, it was mainly a first, let's say, call it, I don't want to call it experiment, initial, let's say, version. There are limitations with ChatGPT. Of course, there are advantages. So we're trying to explore also other solutions, and we're also considering of creating our own solution focused only on education. I don't know if this is going to be feasible, but we're brainstorming often on a weekly basis, and we're trying to see what's the best way to move on. The field is huge. That's the problem. When we're talking about XR, we have AR, VR, and MR. This is huge.
And they all have like very different.
All of them are quite different.
Yeah.
And there's tons of literature about, let's say, avatar representation. Do we want to have a cartoon or not? And as we see the technology moving ahead, until a few years ago, everybody was saying, okay, it's fine to have a cartoon representation because it was kind of difficult to create something very realistic. Now, with what Meta is doing, this volumetric capturing ideas, very soon everybody will use the phone and have a very realistic representation of their face or the body very easily. So this is my own opinion. I expect we're going to change completely how let's say, the avatars in VR, XR are.
Yeah, I think it's a big discussion.
It's a big discussion, yeah.
The area of whoever's working with agents. So what are the limitations when you're working in academic projects and you are limited from the technical and funding perspective? So you might not reach the best solution, but the solution that you can reach, which is might not be the best. So yeah.
Yeah, and we need to cover we were doing an on-demand platform. So it's not about having the best, let's say, device with tracking, because the schools will not be able to buy these things.
Yeah.
So we're developing for everything we do. This is clear. A light solution, which is mobile phones, basically, or tablets, and a heavy solution, which you can put whatever you can imagine. But we know that the schools will not be able, or the universities don't have the capacity, the expertise, the training to use this thing. So the main 99% is going to be mobile phones. So we're focusing on mobile phones.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Danai, for that question. We have another question. It's been answered on the chat, but I'll repeat it. Don't you think controllers are against the Rio embodiment? So
yeah,
I don't know. Yes.
I totally agree. The new version of Oculus is doing hand tracking. Now we're moving to yeah, I agree.
Great. One more question we have here from Panayotis, and that is, question is, did you fetch the street data from Google Maps, or do you took the pictures and process them otherwise?
No, I took the pictures myself, actually, with my smartphone. So again, it's down to the same thing with ChatGPT. There are, the best solution is to have, let's say, buy some pictures or get an expensive or get a 360, let's say, camera. 360 is causing, by the way, we tried it, it causes motion sickness. So what I did with my phone, it was totally an idea when on a weekend. I took panorama and we put them in MR. So this is something that anybody can do. Anybody who has a smartphone can run VR, AR, and can create the content that he or she wants to put on the application. For me, this is extremely important. I'm going back to the previous thing I was saying. We want a solution for 99% of the population in the education community. I don't want to create something that only 1% can use. So the content is basically generated by me, and anybody with a smartphone, as I said, can create panoramas. It's super easy.
Thank you, Professor. We have 1 or 2 minutes left, so let's say it's the last bell. If you have one other question coming up, I would guess we are happy with it as it is. So thanks you once again, Professor LIAROKAPIS, for your time and for presenting very thorough, very informative, and a lot of new insights.
Thank you.
We will now focus our attention on the third and final project, which is the MASTER project. The MASTER project's purpose is to develop an XR platform for quality learning and industrial robotics application. There will be 2 presenters for this presentation. I would like to introduce them. One is Mrs. Maria Madarieta. She is a telecommunications engineer with experience training engineers at university and telecommunication technicians for more than 10 years. She started working in virtual wear, first in Mexico and returned to Spain, where she's based in the Basque Country. And she works in the RD department of the virtual wear company, where she is a researcher in extended reality aspects. Our second presenter is Mr. Jesus Rosso, who has developed his professional career at Mondragon Lingua Alicop Group, which is also in the Basque Country. Alicop provides specialized training and developmental services to companies and institutions. Mr. Rosso currently works as a consultant in the educational solutions department, when he has collaborated and formulated an executive range of projects in an educational nature, both domestically and internationally. The title of this presentation will be Learning and Robotics, the Master Approach. And Dr. Madarieta will present aspects related to the design development of the OpenXR platform for content creation, and Mr. Rosso will describe the didactic approach adopted to this aim, including the general context and associated challenges. So once again, I'll ask you to kindly write your questions in the chat, and we will now give the screen to Dr. Madarieta, please. We are looking forward to this. You are muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Please.
thank you. It's because when I put the presentation, I lost track where is microphone activated. Sorry for that. So we are presenting the master project. I will start with an overview of the project itself. The name master comes from mixed reality ecosystem for teaching robotics in manufacturing. That's our scope. The master project objective is to boost the XR ecosystem for teaching and training of robotics in manufacturing by providing an open XR platform that integrates key functionalities for creating safe robotic environments, programming flexible robotic applications, and integrating advanced interaction mechanisms. So we are with the other 2 sister projects in the XR ecosystem with teaching and training objectives, but specialized, our tool and platforms are specialized in robotics aspects. So We have a background about that, and we have several participants given on the TRLs, the technologies that we need to do this. And of course, together with this, we need to develop rich training contents that demonstrates the potential of this technology, this platform. So we are going to deliver rich training contents also in robotics. We are going to integrate third-party contributions through 2 open calls that we are going to explain at the end of the presentation. And these 2 open calls will provide the platform with additional technologies and functionalities. Is why we are in this designing part and definition part, taking into account them, the technological partners that we will face in the future, apart from ourselves that are the partners of the project itself. And then we have another one that provide additional education contents, the ones that we are going to deliver and the ones that they are going to deliver. These are teachers or professionals that know about robotics in manufacturing, and they will have tools to provide educational content in XR that we are going to be developed. The approach itself, we show like this as pillars. The main pillar is the pillar 1, that is the OpenXR platform that integrates OpenXR-based components and allow easy creation of content. We call it low code, as some participants says also, and then robotics teaching by non-experts. Together with that pillar, we have pillar 2, 3, and 4, that are the pillars that our the partners know, the integration of safety and health at work aspects, the robotic application and programming things, and multimodal mechanisms to improve interaction and eye gaze and so on. So we are putting together all the components together with the platform to do the XR platform complete with these pillars. To design the didactic materials, it will be necessary to carry out the instructional design to determine the most pleasant way to deliver education content and create effective and attractive learning experience. So we are going to deliver this, and what we have to define and to schedule all the things. The instructional design will also allow the construction and development of didactic materials in a strategic, planned, and a structured way for different learning objectives. We have to think that robotics in manufacturing, that Jesus is going to explain, is a quite complex area, and we are going to be specialized in that area. So, to finish with this general part, we mentioned here our consortium. We have EXTENDED that is doing this, hosting the presentation. This is the European Science Communication Institute that is in charge of the communication, dissemination, and exploitation. Then we have the main components made by LMS, Panepistimio Patron, then Techniker, that is Fundación Techniker from the Basque Country also, and DFKE, that is the expert, German expert doing the passive gaze-based interaction. Then, of course, with all the design and didactic materials is ALECOP, Mondragon Lingua ALECOP, that Jesus is going to show the first outcome of this part of the project, that is the definition of the didactic materials base that are the users themselves. And of course, we Virtualware, with the XR platform definition and all the technical aspects that we are going to put in this project. So I will let Jesus the word to explain our educational use cases and learning outcomes.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Have I the control, I suppose? Yeah. Okay. Good morning to all attendants. Now, Jesus Rosel speaking. My intention in this part is to talk about the master project's didactic or educational approach in general. This approach or strategy will be active throughout the project, but I will focus on starting and foundational aspects, just to give an idea of exactly what we have done so far. So I will go through these 3 points. First, I will give an overview of industrial robotics, since this is the general application context of the master project. Next, I refer to the central issue of teaching and learning industrial robotics right now, and based on extended reality in a near future. In our project, we want to demonstrate precisely that this is a feasible endeavor, particularly for audiences seeking professional or occupational qualifications. Finally, I will talk about namely the educational use cases and other related artifacts, all of them instructional in nature. Essentially, they are useful to set the learning goals and contents we want work around during the project, and to guide us in configuring our XR platform. Okay, well, industrial robotics is a very broad sector and has many interesting perspectives and data associated. But for us, it's relevant the focus on specifically industrial robotics or robotics manufacturing, general trends in robotics, industries involved, and workforce. Also, of course, to know about the current use of XR by this workforce. So let's see some of them, although superficially. Well, we are mainly interested in industrial robotics, with, with their typical architecture of electromechanical manipulators and so on, and also in robotics applications in manufacturing domains. For example, welding robots in automotive industry and so on. This includes especially collaborative robots or cobots, which are of increasing importance in industry cities. Collaboration in this kind of robots means humans working along with robots without physical barriers, remarking the relevance of safety issues, smarter behavior of this kind of robots, or how to make them easier of use for non-expert operators and so on. Of course, there exist many others, professional service robots and even domestic robots. But we are interested on industrial robots. Well, in effect, robots are becoming more and more of a part of industry and daily life too. So to illustrate, just data show a steadily growing robot density. This is important because it informs about the competitiveness of industry. Also, the importance of robotics for new economic powers like China, or the steadily growing market share of collaborative robots. Here, trends in robotics, trends observed in manufacturing are opportunities in manufacturing in general, are opportunities for robotics advancement. For example, more personalized production is demanded with a higher mix of products and lower production volumes, but this adds complexities and uncertainty to manufacturing. Another trend, for example, is the increasing need for automation for SMEs. In sum, for the robotics industry to continue to make an impact on production, robots needs, above all, to be simpler in operation, more collaborative, and smarter. This is important because set challenge to robotics advancement. There are many value chains where industries and other actors add value to final product and service for a diversity of client industries. For us, the clients are manufacturing firms, big or small, and the manufacturing processes they need to robotize. They are typically served by integrators with engineering services and after-sales services. And located upstream are robots manufacturers and applied research and development firms and institutions. This industry is demanding the specific and updated robotics workforce. In effect, many workers in the robotics value chain will need to be skilled in robots to some extent. In robotics manufacturing, the three most representative job specializations are robotics engineers, that is people that perform at the highest technical levels and manage. Robotics technicians, they configure, program, build, or even service robots and systems under engineers' directions and supervision. And finally, robotics operators. They typically do robots and work cells tending. Okay. Of course, we need to know about the level of acceptance and usage of XR technology by this robotics workforce today. Well, XR is starting to be used properly in the more general manufacturing industry. Here, in general, it's valued for its massive potential as a vehicle of more intense sensory experiences, provided this can be subordinated to practical aims with quality. So it can be said that XR is now in industry being tested in various production domains, expecting to confirm comparatively operational efficiency, improve production processes, and or increase productivity. All this applies to robotics, to industrial robotics, to robotics manufacturing, which is a manufacturing domain. So as with any other kind of innovation, the key takeaway for us is we need to use XR resources to outperform in some significant work area or work types. Obviously, some advanced XR products are becoming, I will say slowly, are becoming available for robotics professionals. To illustrate, this is an example of a commercial XR tool coming from ABB, a major provider of robots and associated services, a giant. This tool is intended for automation engineers or equivalent, and use AR, augmented reality, to overlay modeled robotic solutions into real-life production settings in order to facilitate testing and collaborative optimization before realization. Also, this product is promoted for workforce education and training too. So we could say that this kind of product is exclusive for engineers. Here, another similar example from KUKA, another robot manufacturer. This is based on holographic digital twins, but this is not in the market yet. So to summarize this part, XR technologies are still far from widespread widespread adoption in robotics manufacturing. And this is not without challenges. In the master project, we are trying specifically to address some of them, such as the general learning curve for workers and for users of this kind of tools in general. Or, for example, the lack of XR resources tools for less qualified workforce, others than robotics engineers, obviously, perhaps operators and technicians. Finally, as XR technology evolves and becomes more accessible, the adoption, no doubt, is to increase. Okay. One of the potential uses of XR technologies are precisely in manufacturing training. So let's have now a look at the issue of teaching and learning industrial robotics now and prospectively with an educational technology based on XR. Finally, I will clarify what audiences we are focused on, representing this, the main users of our educational XR platform. Okay, we are interested in education and training actions, above all conducive to professional qualifications, such as those required by the robotics engineers, technicians, and operators. We can find this educational offer in vocational education and higher education systems, as well as in corporate or non-formal education and training in general. Of course, there are other spaces for robotics education, such as the more recent STEAM initiatives, but we are interested in professional qualifications. Robotics studies tends to be specialized programs or multidisciplinary courses. Well-defined and updated, they inform about the kind of work, tasks, and knowledge that characterize robotics workforce and associated performance standards. Okay. This is interesting too, because in learning industrial robotics, a diversity of resources and teaching approaches have been used traditionally, adapted to the kind of learning outcomes and qualification levels, among other important factors, such as affordability and safety. So we recognize here traditional technology trainers, educational robot, even industrial and real system robots, but also remote labs and apprenticeship programs where in manufacturing plants, apprenticeship can have chance of using real robots. So this is the traditional means for teaching and learning industrial robotics today. Okay. Potentially, this educational technology, this traditional educational technology can be expanded or perhaps substituted with XR technologies and advanced simulation principles conveniently instrumented in innovative resources, such as our envisaged XR platform. So this is our general framework for thinking in educational attributes. XR resource for learning and teaching real robotics effectively, safely, appealing, and affordably. Finally, these are our systems-specific audiences. This is to say, these are the major groups of people that ultimately will learn and will teach using this educational technology. Globally, is the workforce in training processes, young students, and teachers and trainers. But above all, we are especially focused in this project on non-expert workforce or lower levels of qualifications. That's it, on robotics technicians or operators. Okay, finally, based on knowledge and guided principles from the previous parts, we need to build our specifications about three basic elements: the robotics contents of or subjects of learning, the corresponding learning strategies, and required functionality of our XR educational system. All of them considering the diverse projects, audiences, and users' roles. We do all this building a number of educational use cases. Let's see briefly, let's see how. Okay. As has been said before, the master project is based on several technological objectives or technical challenges related to real robotics manufacturing works and scenarios supported on XR technologies. Well, tied to such objectives are the project's use cases, and from them, global knowledge domains and learning outcomes can be inferred, including those associated to the intended unified XR platform for learning robotics. So you can see here the general learning outcomes precisely tied to technical or technological use cases in master project. Okay. In modeling the project use cases under the perspective of end users, such as learners and teachers, emerge some educational scenarios. Precisely in the master project we have defined 9 representative scenarios, and these scenarios will be pilot enriched or eventually expanded through the open calls, the planned open calls in the project, the master project. So it's easy to understand that each chosen scenario has direct own learning objectives subordinated to the general learning outcomes. In each proposed scenario represents a real robotics manufacturing task and work context involving activity and events, people, means, digital or real, and interaction with the XR system. To illustrate in each scene, like this one, we must describe the educational purpose of goal, the XR exchange composition based on functional elements, the workforce or actors involved, the represented work, and the educational use cases. Finally, these last elements in an educational scheme are properly educational use cases, and they represent the lower level of instructional analysis, and consequently, they are associated with highly specific learning objectives. In addition, they are organized and sequenced, defining a learning sequence based on activities. Remarkably, these learning sequences respond to envisioned teaching strategies. Therefore, they are going to determine, finally, users' learning dynamics and experiences in the XR platform. Conceptually, they can be seen also placed on a continuum from more structured learning sequences on one hand, to more exploratory ones on the other end. To illustrate this last, for example, in a highly structured learning sequence, useful for novice learners in the robotics area, they will be requested and guided to work from more conceptual, simpler or partial activities, that is from knowledge and skill acquisition, to the most complex one, that is application of acquired knowledge and skills to problem solving and the like. So this ends my presentation, and I hope this provides an overview of our educational side, our educational approach. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesus. Now I will continue with the presentation with the XR platform, the definition and the developments that we already accomplished and what want to do. As mentioned before, the first technological objective is the development of the platform. It's an open XR platform for the creation and management of XR content in robotics by non-experts or low code. That's the pillar one. It must integrate what we have seen here, that is the creating safe robotic environments. You have seen in Jesus' presentation that is learning objectives. There are technological aspects that we have to cope. And of course, programming flexible robotic applications and interaction, advanced interaction mechanisms based on eye tracking. Of course, this means consolidating, maturing, and unifying existing technologies from all partners into a single framework. That's a good challenge, together with the necessary interfaces for open co-experimental technologies. So we set together how to work with this. As in another previous project presented, we set a DevOps system with a Git project where we all work together in that project, and we set several constraints, limits, and ways to function. This platform will allow to use high-quality training materials for robotics and give the chance to non-experts programmers to create. So we have two things. We have to deploy high-quality training materials, and we have to give chance to non-experts, and it's going to be measured how easily they can do these XR learning materials. So, which is the main structure of the platform? The platform has the roles that Jesus has underlined, that are the XR content creator. Then we have the trainers and we have the trainees. So for that, we need the platform to have some tools for create, services to cope with all the create material and identify users and give access and everything, and then the execute module. Okay, sorry. That are the players to deploy the XR content created and in open XR standard devices, that is desktops, head-mounted devices, immersive large rooms, etc. So this is the main structure, or the top structure of the platform. This approach is the origin is Biru. So Biru is a VR platform developed to enable easy creation, management, and deployment of immersive multi-user content. Biru is a technologically advanced product, but at the same time very simple and to use and manage in an effective way. And we have already developed and we commercialize the different elements that make the platform. That is the deploy aspect that we have here of the VR content using Biru players. Then we have VR content creation tools using Biru Studio and Biru Academy. And we have the platform management through Biru Portal and Biru Virtual Desk. Most of the elements are made with using open standards. The deploy part, the players are two different players. There are the single player, that is a Windows application that allows to deploy immersive multi-user VR content on desktop computers with or without VR headsets. The headsets are very variable because we have a lot of users with each own headset, but we compare with OpenXR and Steam VR headsets. Then we have the Room Player. It's another Windows application that allows to deploy immersive multi-user VR content in a large immersive room. And it's one of the characteristical differences of the Vero platform. And this software manages the hardware, the sessions VR content, the easy deployment, and everything. And lastly, we have the create part. The content creation for Vero is done using Unity as other system process and 3D development tool, the most popular in graphics. Okay. Vero Studio is a set of tools integrated with the Unity engine that allow people with or without programming skills to develop multi-user interactive environments, which are compatible with virtual reality devices. And this brings the creation process closer to user profiles that until now could not be part of it, following low-code philosophy. This Vero Studio is already used by universities and vocational schools around us, and teachers are already creating content, general content or more specified content using this tool. But they need to, we need to evolve this content creation tool, and we are going to evolve this in this project to robotics aspects. Vero Studio allows you to use your own code to perform actions and interactions that are not already predefined. Of course, we need we give a space for experts that know how to program, and the combination of predefined actions and custom scripts allow you to create content of almost any level of complexity. The Vero creators are not only university teachers, non-expert teachers, but also companies that use Vero as creator tool because they have solved every aspect of deployment and management. So they can focus in the creation part, and using this and their expertise in Unity, they can enrich that content. All content generated in Vero Studio works automatically in a multi-user environment, synchronizing all actions and events among all session participants. Developers do not have to worry about all the complexity of the networking system and can focus exclusively on content creation. That is the main aspect. The platform is multi-device by design, adopting the main tools of the OpenXR standard deployed under SteamVR, as I mentioned, and therefore the content could be visualized in the main VR headsets on the market. In addition, users can join a session using their computer without the need for a VR headset, not limiting access to those who don't yet have one of these. Finally, the manager aspect. Vero Portal is the core platform where each organization manages their platform account, users, players, and all the VR content that they have already designed and have. The content generated with Vero Studio is also hosted here in this cloud to allow its deployment easily in different Vero players that are available for them. So this is the origin. This is the starting point that we have, a generic authoring tool with a deployment system and management system, but we want to specialize it, and that's the way in robotics. And of course, we have to specialize in to work with XR. That is the first approach that we have. So how? Vero is a virtual reality platform. The content and applications that can be executed are prepared for VR headset. So the first main development is to deal with technological aspects that let the platform suitable for mixed reality, content and devices. So will be an extended reality platform, and is what we have achieved in the first 6 months of the project. The main issue is to have the computer-generated information together with the information coming from the headset pass-through set of cameras, the key element that brings the real environment information. To go with this requirement, it is necessary to develop 2 of the modules of the platform, that is the create part and the execute part. They work together. We know how we create a material for the cameras, and in the execution time, we can let the interface and the device say, okay, this won't be virtual reality, it would be mixed reality. Please show me here the cameras option. This development will be aligned with another technological objectives of the project, of course, the advanced interaction using eye tracking, for example. Current version of Vero Studio allows creators just to generate their own content, exporting them as Vero scene compliant files. and deploy them through our runtime applications compatible with the whole set of devices that follows OpenXR STMVR runtime. Furthermore, our implementation of already made components, we provide a mechanism for Vero experienced users to create their own plugins with their own logic based on specific .NET code written in C# languages. Vero Studio provides an interface to select the content to be published to a Vero scene and add specific assembly definition files to be compiled and embedded during the publication. This way to extend the code is very powerful, but as the platform deployment grows, we are facing some compatibility problems with third-party libraries using SDKs or APIs based on wrappers to C++ code implementation, for example, native DLL libraries. Considering that other partners and third parties technological developments need to use this native C++ and .NET code, the master project will extend integration capabilities to allow third-party SDKs using dynamically linked libraries implementing APIs in the C++ and DLLs. For that to work, we are going to create a new workflow involving the whole process, from the content creation UX exposed through Unity's UI panels to the Vero runtimes, in charge of loading those unknown assemblies seamlessly for the end user. To allow complex third-party integrations in the project, such as ROS, that is one of the robotics main used languages, enterprise bus communication system, Kafka, this kind of industrial aspects, we will create a specific scene loader runtime for the project. That is the execute one, the master scene loader, called here in the figure, with a high specialization in the robotics industry. This runtime will allow to play a specific generated Vero scene using its corresponding Master Studio instance, the create module that the content creators are going to use. So I hope this will be clear, but we have plenty of time to questions. I will close this presentation with the open calls phase. We are still preparing it, so it's an outline, okay, of the open calls that we have in mind. There are two open calls. The first one challenges the technological one. We have firstly outlined these technological challenges for our first open call, but we need to review it and, of course, open it to all the needs that we need. And the second one challenge is the creation of a machine learning application and standard the robotic reference system, more focused on educational aspects, and develop educational materials focused for all the users and the objective of the project, the personal data objective of the project mentioned by Jesus. So thanks. The funding scheme is going to be the first open call is any kind of institution can apply for the open call and receive funding. The maximum funding is 200, sorry, K. Large companies receive 0.5% funding, and the duration is 9 months. And in the second open call, yes, we have institutions providing education or content creation services for the validation of the master technologies. We need to shorten the institutions that can apply them. And we have a maximum funding of 100K. Large companies as the same, they have the half funding, and also 9 months of duration of the developments during this. So thank you very much. We are now finalizing our presentation. I hope it will be interesting, and I think we have time for questions. Reza?
Yes, thank you, Maria and Jesus. That was a very informative presentation with the thoughts behind the theoretical aspects, the challenges that the master is facing, and as well as the open calls. Do we have questions from the audience at this moment? I'm wondering if you can either want to go online, or I can read the questions if they show up on the chat, because we have some time for that. I would take the opportunity now to ask a question of my own about the open calls. When exactly will they be started, and when the duration of the call, the competition part of it, when does it start officially, and when would they end? The two calls that are coming up for the master project.
I'm very sorry. I will let the word to Panagiotis to answer this question, because he's in charge of this, and I not to say it wrongly. Sorry. Thank you, Panagiotis.
No, it's okay. I can answer this. So we foresee to open the first open call at the beginning of the next year. The call will be open for a couple of months, so January and February of 2024. And then we expect for one more month to do the evaluation and the selection of the applications. And then for the rest 9 months, let's say, of 2024, to run the applications of the first open call. And similarly, to follow a similar pattern for the second open call for 2025. So at the beginning of each year will be the open call will be launched and will be the selection, and the rest 9 months, let's say, will be for the execution of the open call applications.
Thank you, Panagiotis. So once again, thanks to everyone who participated, and special thanks for the speakers sharing their experiences, and stay tuned for future events. Before we leave, I would like to draw your attention to the LinkedIn channel that we have. It's called Extended Reality Learning. It's we will start organizing periodic networking sessions to share good practices and challenges, and promoting the interaction and dialogue between the XR developers, and everybody who has an interest in this community. So it has been very enlightening few hours here. I would thank everyone, and have a good afternoon. I wish everybody. So goodbye from my side, and have a great day.
Thank you, Reza. Thank you all.
Thank you, Reza. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Everyone,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.